Welcome to the webinar. I'm so pleased you could join us. And today we're looking at how firms can achieve greater collaboration through cloud document management and process automation. I'm delighted to be joined on this webinar by Ian Cooper, who's Head of UK Operations for FYI Docs. So welcome, Ian, and thank you for joining me in our chat today.
Yeah, thank you, Jay. Thanks for the invite.
It's a pleasure. So let's get started. I'm just going to take the welcome slide off. So Ian, let's kick off first of all. Accountancy firms that we're working with particularly are continually seeking new ways to improve their efficiency. They're also looking at lots of ways in which they can improve their collaboration between their team members, their clients, their prospective clients, etc. And we often have long chats about cloud software. What am I aware of that other firms are using? How are other firms improving their efficiency? And I know obviously that thanks to the cloud, technology is offering some really good solutions to that, but you're much closer to the coalface than I am when it comes to collaboration tools. So with the firms that you're talking to and you're working with, what challenges do you see those firms having with exactly that, process automation and document management?
Yeah, thank you, Joe. I think you're right. There are increasing challenges associated with that collaboration aspect between staff and between the firm and the clients and the firm and the staff. And that's been a kind of increased due to COVID coming in and the increase of flexible working and remote working, where there are now, where you could sort of bump into somebody making a coffee or having a chat and just have a quick sort of debrief on what's going on with client X, Y, or Z. The ability to now have those conversations sort of being removed. So that collaboration, which used to happen in a face-to-face sort of an analog environment, now needs to be happening digitally. And what a lot of firms are finding is that they haven't got the tools to enable that digital collaboration. So there's often sort of piles of bits of information in lots of different disparate locations. And the tools that we'll be talking about and running through today are those ones that actually bring everything back into that consolidated view. So the collaboration aspect of delivering a great customer service has become harder because of the not being able to share a client story or a quick update on the phone call that just happened. And that's where the digital transformation aspect of the kind of the FYI, but also what technology offers, is then bringing the full digital transformation is when you then bring customers into that journey and you're communicating with them digitally. So that's a lot about how we're bringing those different sort of areas of technology together in one place. And so document management, if we just think about the way FYI treats documents, it's everything from phone records or tasks, emails, Word documents, PowerPoint, Excel, etc. But it's also all of your meeting notes and all of your file notes. All of these are held digitally in that central location and attached to the client record.
So for a lot of firms, change is difficult. I say difficult, significant, possibly. Yeah. How do you manage that transition from current methodology, which might be a mixture of lots of different things, both manual and spreadsheets and all sorts of things, over into a solution like FYI?
That's a great question. It's something we have invested huge amounts of money and resources into to make sure that onboarding process and the migration to move to this type of solution is really quite significant. Because what we can potentially do at the beginning of the 2010s-ish, the likes of Xero came along and suddenly accountants went, oh, we can see real-time data. This is fantastic. Oh, we're getting bank feeds. This is great. What other cloud tools are there? And they went and saw that there was like something like Dropbox for document storage, or there was something like Trello for managing your jobs, or Wunderlist, if anybody remembers that, bought by Microsoft to be Microsoft To Do. So there was all of these disparate elements that firms are going, oh, that's great for that. That's great for that. And what we actually do is pull in all of those different areas of CRM, document storage, job management, task management into this central client list to give it a real client focus. So that idea of pulling all those different sources of data together is really quite scary, because accountants are used to process, and quite often you'll speak to a firm and you go, right, so what happens if somebody changes the name and address? And they have a process document for it, and they have to cloud hop. So they cloud hop from one cloud program to another, date and name and address. So that is a process that's baked in, and many firms have been doing that kind of thing for a number of years now. If they've chosen that kind of like pulling out little bits of cloud apps that do it. Other firms that have stuck with the likes of CCH, for example, they're really used to that single one set of data, and you update a figure in one area and it flows through to the other. And Iris and CCH have got really sophisticated tools that mean that you don't have to worry about cloud hopping. But what they don't give you is potentially that flexibility of the cloud. So to answer your question, when we're talking about onboarding, we look at doing data migration. So we pull together all of those disparate sets of documents, and that could be from a DMS system, a desktop document management system, or SharePoint, or OneDrive, or Dropbox, etc. And then we pull that into the client database in FYI. And we'll also then be merging in the client information, so all of the CRM information. So we're now combining the CRM package and the documents into one place. And with some of our really sophisticated integration with CCH, Iris, Zero Practice Manager, we can also pull all of that job information through. So as one side of the migration and onboarding process is moving that data from one place to another. And then on the other side, we've got, right, what are your processes today? So we do have we have a really close relationship where each firm is assigned an onboarding consultant that will run with them for a period of about 4 to 6 weeks, where there'll be a setting homework for them, there'll be regular check-ins, they'll be making sure that the work that's being done is ready for the go live date. So you've got the digital champions in the firms working with our consultants. And then we've got, finally, the third part of this is actually user training. So this is all done via, a lot of it, this is done via e-learning. We've got our own e-learning management system. So you've kind of got 3 things running in parallel, and it's a huge process. But because we've clearly mapped out and explained each of these processes, and everybody knows their roles during this onboarding process, we find it works really well. And it has been refined over about 1,200 plus firms over the past 5 years so far. And this is definitely, like I say, an area that we really focus in on as being one of our kind of guiding pillars that firms need to get on board quickly.
So how would you deal, I've thrown a good question at you here, Ian, but how would you deal with, I guess, those rogue team members? Because I guess with a product like yours, it's as good as what you put in, what goes into it. So do firms have challenges in getting everybody to buy into using the platform and making it work for them, or do you still have to kind of mop up those rogue team members?
There's always going to be a little bit of somebody going a little bit rogue, but there's a few things that we do for this. So, I mean, the sort of traditional change management model is, who are the key players in the different firms? How do you get them on board? How do you build them into even the decision-making process at the beginning of the project, when beginning to review what software is available? You bring in those key influencers that you want to assign that kind of digital champion role. You make sure they've got full backing from the partners and senior managers, because we find it's generally better for the partners to step back and not get involved in this kind of change management piece. So we empower the digital champions, the ones that have a bit of influence, and then you've got peer pressure in the firm to make sure that the ones that have the potential to go rogue have got kind of, they can see other people looking at them going, why are you going rogue? We're implementing something for a good reason, because they were part of that decision-making team at the beginning. So we've got that aspect of it with kind of peer pressure internally, which is traditional change management of those kind of spider networks of who has the influence and the ear of the different people. We've also got the benefit that once somebody sees something like automatically filing all of your emails without having to touch a button, the actual product itself makes them go, oh, okay. Straight away, they've removed this burden of having to remember to file an email, or they've got a post-it note on their screen that their teammates left them with a phone call. Again, that's just been eliminated. So they find something very quickly in the FYI platform that makes them go, that makes them sit up and think and go, maybe this change isn't so bad after all. And then that's when it really starts coming home about the benefits that this type of product brings, because it's actually quite a fairly unique offering that we've got. If people say, oh, FYI does document management, it's a bit of a misnomer. Yes, we do document management, but that's because documents are integral with every part of client engagement, tasks, onboarding, working papers, e-signing documents, filing documents. So they proliferate the whole job process. But a lot of times document management is seen as a place to put your year-end accounts or put your annual statements or your confirmation statement or CT600, and it's a place for them to gather dust. And you need to keep it because it's got to be done for compliance. So we flip that on its head and we bring documents into the day-to-day work. And the uptake and the enthusiasm that we get and we hear from firms that have implemented that thought there was going to be some rogue troublemakers in the firm, the feedback that we get is great, and it's quite quickly seen that the benefits far outweigh any disadvantages.
Okay, and you mentioned earlier we were talking about the zero conversation, and I'm aware obviously that your product integrates with other applications. So how important do you think when you're looking at choosing collaboration software and document management software, how important is integration with other best of breed applications?
Oh, massively important. I think the integration, and I've been in the industry for quite a long time, Joe. I started best part of 20 years ago with Thomson Reuters. And at the time they had this standalone tax product called Taxability Pro, and came along just before it was it came in when you started being able to file tax returns online. It was flagship product. You showed it to firms, it did things, and they were like, wow, that's amazing. It sends 100 information requests out at the click of a button. So I've come from a standalone, but quite quickly the likes of Iris and CCH came along and they said, you don't want to have multiple databases. You don't want to update client data in more than one place. It's really inefficient. It's really risky. You've got to maintain all of these process documents on how to update those addresses. So the idea of going back to separate standalone databases that aren't integrated with multiple client lists fills me with dread. And that's why we've worked so hard with integrating with CCH Central, Iris Practice Management, Xero Practice Manager. And the reason that we offer this really nice stepping stone into the cloud, lots of firms use the products they know, like, and love that have got in-depth functionality on a SQL database where the reporting functionalities head and shoulders above many cloud apps. They can use it for accounts tax. But the desktop products suffer with this lack of ability to easily integrate with other apps. That's when FYI sort of comes in, because we can use the client data without having the inefficient and risky process of updating multiple client lists, but then we bolt on the signing product or direct integration with Companies House, or My Work Papers, for example. That was our latest integration, where you're sharing client lists, documents, really simply, really seamlessly using API integration and connectivity. And that's one of the massive benefits of moving to the cloud, is that you can now choose best of breed without having multiple disparate databases of client information.
So what opportunities do you think that opens up for accountancy firms?
The big one, and I'm completely biased, but is automation. We have seen great automation in the front office tools. On the verticals, you've got the likes of Xero, Free Agent, QuickBooks, and other that have got these bank feeds. They do automatic reminders to people. They do allocation and reconciliation, etc. Then you've got the payment providers that will do the end-to-end payment process. But these are running in verticals in a front office. But what we provide is this back office suite of tools that has documents at its core and tasks and jobs. And then once you've got all of that information about clients, tasks, jobs, documents, you then can automate them. And that is where the really big opportunities are coming across the vertical in the firms. And I would say, I mean, Will Farnell talks about the 20% of firms are fully digital. I think that he knows far more than I do about these numbers. I would say those that have adopted full business process automation, BPA, to use the TLA, the three-letter acronym, that is a far lower number than 20% from what I can see. So this ability to automate lots of the mundane, repetitive stuff, like opening a folder, creating a job, updating a status on a task. What else would we be automating? Chasing clients. They haven't sent in the information request, or automated approval workflow in the firm. All of these things that could have taken 2 minutes here, 3 minutes there, suddenly can be eliminated with the automation engine, which frees up time for the firms to add value to their customers. And that is what it's all about. This is about why free up time. Well, you can either do more of the same with more time, pile more on top, or you can actually begin to investigate new lines of service in the firm or new market opportunities. Because this is what technology is. It's all about. And so then being an enabler.
No, that's fine. So in terms of, what makes FYI unique in terms of its ROI, so I'm a firm thinking of this all sounds great. What sort of numbers have you got that would demonstrate the sort of time savings that I could expect to achieve, the hours saved on a compliance job, for example?
Yeah, let's. You'll probably see one of the slides that talks about this in a second.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, that's all good. It's something that was really important. If we don't give that ROI, we wouldn't be in business. So I love talking about it. We are conservative with our estimates of how much time we save. We say that you'll be saving minimum of 20% per compliance job, or a couple of hours per compliance job, within a few months of going live. Now, we've got one client that's put pen to paper or finger to keyboard and said that he has saved his firm. There's about 35 people in his firm. Saved his firm 4 hours per person per week within a period of 6 months. Now, those numbers, if I say them to an accountancy firm, they'd be like, yeah, whatever, Ian. It would be the same as an accountancy firm saying, I can save your business huge amounts of money without any justification. But when an owner of an accountancy firm says that, it really makes you realize just how big an impact we can help accountants have. And the bit I love about this is we had one firm, they had 3 full-time admin staff when they first implemented FYI. Now they are down to a part-time admin staff. One of the admin staff was trained or upskilled, and they're now doing bookkeeping. Another doing their accounting qualifications, and the other person now works part-time out of preference. So they've gone from 3 full-time admin staff to half a person in the space of a couple of years. And those are tangible benefits where technology is doing that heavy lifting, the boring stuff that gives that firm the ROI to really justify that attention to making the project work.
Okay. All right. Well, look, Ian, I know obviously the system's already used by lots of accountants. I know you've got a huge market in Australia, particularly. What I wanted to do was give you the opportunity to show the product in action. And I'm guessing most people watching our webinar today are thinking now, well, let's have a look at it then and see what it can do. So let me hand over the reins to you at this point. And yeah, go and show us what it can do.
Sounds good. You mean put your money where your mouth is, Ian? Is that what you're telling me, Joe?
I was being a bit more polite than that, wasn't I?
You certainly were. Yeah. I'm just going to rattle through a couple of quick slides just to re-emphasize our value proposition and what we bring to accountancy firms and how we add value. And then I'll stop with the slides and get stuck into the actual software itself, and you can take a look for yourself. So FYI, we are a privately owned, privately funded and profitable business. We were founded in 2018 by a chartered accountant, and it was over in Australia that we were founded. Now, we have 3 core areas where we work with firms. And I talked about documents being sort of part of every kind of client interaction and staff interaction that you can have. So first and foremost, we're a document management system in the cloud that's fully integrated with Microsoft. We actually use the security credentials of Microsoft for firms to log in. Because we've brought in jobs, clients, tasks, documents, we can then begin to look at how we can automate lots of that client communication and outbound content that you're sending to your clients. And then finally, with all of the elements that we've been discussing here, we're talking about then how do you manage your practice, or how do you automatically manage your practice? So this is the main sort of areas where we help with firms benefit. 3 core guiding principles that every decision that we ever make in terms of what's next is made with one of these in consideration. So proven ROI, I said it kind of flippantly, but if we weren't in business, we wouldn't be in business if we weren't saving you, the accountancy firms, lots of time. And time is one thing, but reducing risk is another. But that's kind of a more intangible area to explore, and one that it isn't quite as much fun to do your calculation on saving 2 minutes here times 100. It's easier to do your numbers ROI. Easy onboarding. We've spent ridiculous amounts of money to make this as smooth and seamless as possible. There's quite often reports cited that it's not the cost of buying software that people are most frightened of, or that is the biggest decision to make. It's how easy is this to onboard. And I've talked about the fact that we have spent a lot of money on that area. And then finally, security and reliability. That was something that is our guiding principle. We're ISO 27001 compliant. We're regulated against GDPR, as you'd expect, and all of the other kind of big standards in terms of us protecting your data and you protecting your client's data. So the proven ROI, this was one of the areas that we talk about. Now, what we do when we're doing a time in motion study, we break down the main areas of how to get a job done. So you start with collecting information, working with clients and teams, doing your work paper. So we break down each of those areas, and then we analyze each of the subsets in there that actually happens. So this is talking about, and these little cogs are the indicator that we're automating all of these processes. So that's where we start getting our ROI calculation costs from. We do offer a 30-day trial, so you can sort of suck it and see to make sure that you're happy with that. Coming back to this easy onboarding of your team, this is no downtime for your team. We've got 3 main channels running in parallel: the migration, the process and consultancy, and the mapping of your existing processes into the FYI environment, and the training of the staff. So those 3 are running in parallel, and it means that there is no downtime between the start of the job, the consultancy and onboarding, through to actually using it in real life. We've even got sample data that you can use, sort of a day in the life kind of scenario of dealing with things. And then security and reliability. We, as I mentioned, are privately owned and financed. If anything was to happen to any FYI system, it would be a big impact. So I'm really pleased that we are built on the AWS framework, which is one of the most secure and reliable in the world. We've had a 99.99% uptime since going live in 2018, which is industry standard best practice. Looking at the ecosystem, and this is where the cloud advantages of a cloud platform really come into its own. So you can see over on the left-hand side, we've got FYI and Office 365. Those are like the prerequisites of being able to use FYI platform itself. And then what we allow is, and recommend, is integrating with either Zero Practice Manager, CCH, and Iris specifically. The beauty of this is that you will be having only one place to update client details. So anything changes about a client, you update it in one place, and then 15 minutes later, you'll see it being updated in the other. With Iris and CCH, they remain the source of truth, and they update FYI. With FYI and Zero Practice Manager, which gives the best experience, that's actually a 2-way sync bi-directional that happens near instantaneously. So once you've got your core office information here, your clients are being fed in here, and your job information, custom fields, we can then look to see what other options we have for pulling down information. So we've got Companies House integration. You can pull down ledger information directly from your client Zero ledger, so balance sheet, executive summary, etc. Yeah, and then the e-signing apps that sort of the top and tail, the tail part of any compliance job or any job that you're running. Formed in 2018 or launched in 2018, we've and we've got a great track record, and we've been doing incredibly well over the past couple of years. Last year was really our breakout year, and that saw us double in size, and we're looking to double in size again this year. Now, it might sound a bit like, oh, listen to me, we're really good at growing our business quickly, but the bit I emphasize around here is we couldn't do this without the FYI product. We eat our own dog food or drink our own champagne, whichever version you want. And it makes this rapid scaling of FYI platform possible, which is how we've built those extra integrations. It's how we do and manage the onboarding. And it's also how we've managed to migrate almost over 500 million documents in a few short years. Some of these names will be familiar to you, I'm sure. We've got firms of anything from a sole practitioner right the way through to top 10 firms with multiple hundreds of users on the platform. So scaling is not a problem. And we've now got over 20,000 users that rely on FYI pretty much every single day, because it becomes your key place to record every transaction interaction with a client, store all of the information that you need, and track all of those key jobs and tasks that are assigned to you. Okay, I told you it was going to be a short little demo, so let's go and do the fun stuff, and that's actually look at FYI and what this brings for your firm. Right, so you should be able to see my screen. What we're looking at here is FYI itself. Across the top, we've got our global control. So you've got who you're working for. You've got the when do you need to do what you need to do to get the job done. Is that easily visible, or do I need to increase the size a little bit there, Joe? Give it a little bit.
Yep. No, I can read that.
Right.
I can read that.
Good.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so when, then it's the what. What are you producing for your clients? And then it's the how. How are we going to do the job? And this is this automation engine I talked about. And then finally, knowledge. I'll just pop in here quickly, because if you've ever written the same email more than twice from scratch, or the same letter, stop doing it, pretty much is what I'm going to say in the nicest possible way, because anything that's done multiple times, create a template and just use and reuse that. That gives you that ability to really create your mark, add your firm's brand to the content, to the wording, to the style of the letter, to the font. And protecting brand is becoming increasingly important to firms. And this idea of template management and building these into the way that you communicate with your client becomes increasingly important. Right, going back to home. Home. This is a view for a unique view area for every single member of staff. You've got what you've been working on recently, so the last 7 days worth of documents you've been working on. You've got all of the tasks. So this is all my tasks that I need to do. And we've got a few different ways of viewing this. So we sort of recreate Excel, and we can allow you to customize this screen and layout however you want. Now, the bit I like is actually going into this board. So if you prefer a more visual way of being able to update your tasks, just a simple drag and drop is going to move them between the different phases. Again, really easy and nice and visual. Or we've even got the grouping. So if you just need to know what I've got to do today, really simple, come in here. You've got a view of all of the jobs that you've got to do today. So again, we've got those, gives you multiple different ways of choosing to use FYI and fit it the way that you prefer to work, rather than shoehorning a system into a new firm without giving staff any kind of multiple options. Okay, moving on to the client list. So this is a full list of all of the clients we've got in FYI. Completely change the data model however you want. Record any specific information that's unique to your firm. So we use something called custom fields that can be integrated from CTH or attributes from Iris, or custom fields again from Zero Practice Manager. So in here, if I wanted to have a quick look at all of my gold clients, I can do that. So I've now got that list, and there's 6 in there. So maybe I just wanted to have a look at all gold clients where the bookkeeper's Brendan. So I can just filter that down in there. So I've now got a list of 3. So you can see cutting and slicing this data to be able to create tailored lists becomes incredibly easy. And then once you've got that tailored list, you might want to send them an email, or you might want to assign tasks to them or launch jobs. So very easy to be able to find out, let's say, how many clients take annual accounts from you, but don't take management accounts. So being able to spot opportunities for upsell and cross-sell to existing customers becomes really easy. Now, I've got a global search up here. I'm going fast, by the way, because there's a lot to cover. But what I'm looking at here, I'm going to look at our client, Leslie Flyer. So now this is bringing that global client view down and producing a 360-degree view for just one particular client or group of clients. So on this main summary here, we've got the ability to see all of the last documents that are worked on or any tasks that are upcoming and overdue. Now, the beauty of this is that no matter where your teammate is in the world, whether that's sat next to you or on the other side of the world from one of your maybe an offshore team, then their knowledge of what's going on with the client is as up to date as yours, because you can see we've got phone calls, emails that have auto-filed, all of the tasks outstanding. So if a partner's meeting with a client, they don't need to chase the senior manager for the senior manager to chase the client manager. They can actually just come into FYI and see the latest bit of information. And that visibility of the client's current and up-to-date life with the firm allows for amazing customer service. And when we talk about automation saving you time, what are you going to do with that time? This is where you can start spending more time with your clients. And because we've pulled information from these different places, you can then be able to just have to research the client from one place to really go and add some really incredibly valuable insights into their business. We talked about integration. So at the point I clicked on phone. So it fires up. If you've got it integrated with a VoIP system, it will fire up that VoIP system. So in here, I can just type a message saying Leslie called. So Leslie called for somebody, or I called Leslie. She wasn't available. So I'm going to click on create. And now Leslie called in, wants to speak to someone. So she's called in, wants to speak to somebody. We're going to add a task, and then we're going to assign that to one of my teammates. Please call back. Now, the beauty of this is that this task is attached to the phone record, so we could have seen any notes that were taken. It will automatically, this task, alert them via Microsoft Teams, and that's that kind of real-time interaction between the phone call, the client, and Microsoft Office. So that's now made the phone call note, added it here with a date and timestamp. You know what user's done it, so you've got full audit trail. We deal with full groups as well. So Leslie's part of a group, and you can see we've got 6 or 7 entities that she's related to. Let's go and have a quick look at documents, because I talk about documents being the core of FYI. So here I'm looking at all documents ever created for Leslie, and there's 259. And some people will say, well, I like my folder structure. It's much easier because I just double click on a folder and then go down by year, etc. But what we can do here is just really quickly come into here, and I might want to have a look at all of the final reports and returns over the past 3 years or 4 years. So I've now got all of those documents visible that have been created over that period. And let's say Leslie called up and she wanted one of these. I can just click on share. And now what this is going to do, it's actually going to send it to the client portal that we use that's built off the SharePoint framework. So with 2 clicks of a button, and you can use a email template that I talked about. So what have I done? 3 clicks of a button, and then I can just send immediately if I wanted to draft it in Outlook or draft it in FYI itself. So full integration with Outlook. So really easy to be able to collaborate with clients on that. Now, let's go and hop over to Outlook. We try and give you all of the tools that you can manage your whole firm without leaving FYI, but we also know that Outlook is a massive part of everybody's day-to-day work, and us trying to stop you from using Outlook would be like pushing water up a hill. So what we actually do is bring FYI directly into Outlook. So with this emails, this is how emails get filed automatically. We've got this invoice that's been received. We can see it's been filed in FYI, and that's great. So that's nice and easy. Now there's a couple of things going on here. I could go in here and add some extra filing details. These have all been pre-configured with the metadata that I wanted. We've got the attachment here. and I can actually change the name, but that's going to be filed with the same metadata of work type, cabinet, job, year that the actual email is as well. But they are two separate documents in FYI. So this is wanting to start a job. So we're going to assign a task from here, Outlook itself, and we've got something called task templates. I'm going to choose this task template, annual accounts. I'm going to assign it to Steve. That's me actually, and what the task template does, it's really clever. It gives you contextualized guidance to your team directly from that task template. So it says, client's ready to start a thing, run this automation, which means that we automate this whole process. And if you need guidance and help, here it is. So if you've got juniors that need extra guardrails on how to complete a task or a job, you can build those guardrails directly into the task templates itself. So I'm going to click on create. So that's now created the task in FYI. I'm the partner. It's put it in delegated tasks for me, so I can go and check on the status of that task without having to send an email, without having to write a post-it note or phone somebody up. So the amount of time saving and the audit trail, so you can see how the junior staff have handled that email, really becomes much easier. We talked about collaboration. In here, rather than forwarding this for somebody and you put somebody on a CC and you've cluttered up their inbox, what we're doing is we're actually going to tag them. So I'm going to tag Heather. I'm going to tag Heather and say, FYI, information is in. So she's going to receive a notification via Teams. She'll see that there's nothing for her to action, but she can see the email and she's not had to clutter up her inbox. It's all being tracked in FYI directly. So again, a brilliant way of being able to keep staff that need to be updated without forwarding loads of different emails around the firm and setting off down the racetrack for different people to not do stuff and get them distracted from what they're actually doing. Jobs, very quickly. We again try and make sure that we give you everything in here so that you don't have to go somewhere else. We know that that's difficult to do, but let's say I wanted to just group this. This is a spreadsheet style of all of my jobs by job state, client manager. So let's say I wanted to look at this by client manager. So I'm just going to group by client manager. And now we've got all of those grouped together. And then we see that that's all grouped together. And then what I might also want to do is actually add an extra group here. We find that reporting is such a key area where firms are saying that they really can't get the reports out of their cloud software that they'd like to see. So we worked really hard to make sure that we give you that ability to create those groupings of clients and customize these views. But like we've done with FYI and Outlook, we acknowledge that there are times when you prefer just to ping it out into Excel, put a macro over the top of it, and do any bespoke reports that you need in Excel itself. I'm just very briefly going to touch on some of the other things we can do, which are really cool up here. So I can, by using even any of these hotkeys, I can send emails to people, create jobs, add a file note, meeting note. So at any place in the system, I can create a file. And if I've got a client open, FYI smart enough to know that I'm creating a spreadsheet or an email for that particular client. And again, what I'm doing here is I select a client. So I've got Leslie Flyer. We're going to use a template. Now watch what happens with these meta tags here. If I choose a working papers template, you'll see that the metadata is automatically updated. So this really helps with helping the firm stay compliant in terms of the firm's, not compliance in terms of data security, but compliance in terms of setting the standards at a firm once and then having those pre-configured metadata being attached to documents for filing or retrieving documents to make complying with those firm standards far easier. Right. I know I'm really conscious of time, and I haven't even talked about the thing that really saves firms the most time, but it is the automation engine. We would love to obviously have a chat with you in more detail and talk you through how that actually works. But fail to say, or without fail to say, it's the bit that really pulls all of these single individual elements I've shown you together to really help with that client communication and collaboration aspects of running your firm. How's that, Joe?
That's amazing.
Done for time?
Yeah, that's absolutely great. Thanks, Ian. That was really, really interesting. And I was just about to put my hand up to ask the question about Outlook, and you just answered it straight away. Familiar with how many firms manage their work through their inbox. So that's really great to see that interaction there. Yeah. Okay.
I mentioned the naysayers or the rogue employees, and once they've had those emails and they've seen them landing against the client record, that is generally the bit that tips them in our favor.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Okay. So I've got a couple of questions for you, Ian, which were posted ahead of the webinar going ahead. There's a couple of things that people wanted to ask. I'm also putting your contact details up on the screen at the moment. So if anybody wants to contact Ian directly, then feel free. There's Ian's email address there. But a couple of questions, and again, anybody watching at the moment, feel free to use the Q&A to put any questions forward if you have any. But we were asked about what size of firms this solution is best suited to. And I think earlier on you did answer that question with, we work with, sole practitioners through to top 10 firms. But is there a particular sweet spot for you, or does this really fit every size?
It's the firm's attitude rather than the number of staff or partners a firm has.
Yeah.
If the firm is seriously ready to go down this digital transformation and this digital journey and pull all of those, like getting the old band back together, pulling all of those different elements, those different apps into one place, and spend time genuinely wanting to transform through digital workflows their firm, then this is a good fit for them. In terms of size, the firms that generally have a bit more capacity are sort of 15-ish plus, where there is one person who can be that digital champion. So, but I'd say we've got hundreds of sole practitioners with a few staff, but we also support firms with 300, 400, 500 staff. So it goes right the way across the board, but it is more to do with the attitude than the sort of number of staff.
Okay, and I guess there's that all-important question in terms of cost. So I don't know whether you can give us any kind of ballpark figures in terms of pricing.
I can. We're really transparent. We're proper, true. It's we deal with these kind of things in a true, transparent way, like a proper cloud company should. It's a straightforward price per person per month. So for the document management in the cloud with email filing, you're looking at £15 per person per month. If you then want the collaboration, the Kanban view, the automation engine, which is where the time saving comes, it goes up to £30 per person per month plus VAT.
Okay.
Straightforward. It's really, really easy.
Yeah, you've answered that perfectly. Thank you, Ian. Well, literally, we're at 2:45 on the dot. I want to say thank you, Ian, for spending some time with us this afternoon. I really do appreciate it. As I said earlier, I know a lot of our clients watch this on demand, and we'll be sending out an e-shot tomorrow, which is the 13th of September, with the recorded version on. Again, anybody watching on demand, feel free to contact Ian directly, or visit the FYI.app website and take a look for yourself. Again, many thanks, Ian, and look forward to working with you in the future.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jay. Thanks for having me on. Nice speaking to you.